Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Finding Melody and the Wedding Special Box Set by Laura Rossi, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Do you believe in love at first sight? You know, that moment when you meet someone's eyes and bang, you can't stop thinking about that person. Your pulse quickens, your stomach goes all warm and fuzzy every time you see him. I do. Of course I do. Love is my daily bread, my specialty. No, I'm not a couples therapist or anything like that. I'm a street musician. I sing about falling in love and relationships. If you are a Londoner and you've ever walked around the South Bank or passed by the London Eye, you've probably seen me, or better yet, heard me. That's where I work. I have the prettiest of views. Close your eyes and picture this. Crowded streets, old Victorian buildings, red double-deckers going by. If you let your mind wander, you can almost hear Big Ben sounding in the distance. The boats full of tourists cruising the River Thames, people queuing up for a ride on the London Eye. And stop right there. Do you see the little lady with short pink hair singing and playing the guitar, busking under the wheel? That's me, Melody. I consider myself quite lucky I can enjoy this amazing view of the city every day. And I am not just talking about the city's top attractions. I am talking about the people I meet on those very streets. They are the real pillars of London. In a way, I feel like I know them, each and every one of them. Tourists and occasional strollers smile and take pictures of me like I'm a monument myself. The thought makes me giggle. I am, in fact, a real London girl, born and brought up by the weirdest, hippest parents on the face of the earth. And then there are the usual bystanders, the ones I see every day. I recognize their faces and they acknowledge me like I am a certainty. If it's not raining, I am there, performing during their daily lunches or cigarette breaks from work. I like to observe the life around me and give everyone nicknames. I know, I'm silly like that, but I feel I have a right to. I spend most of my time with these people. The scruffy dog walker, the man that walks 4 dogs every morning. Red Lips, the woman with the same shade of lipstick that reads her newspaper on the bench across from me. And so on. I have a nickname for everyone. I had one for him, too. Our story begins on a rather ordinary late September day. It was 6 o'clock. The last rays of sunlight sparked behind the Houses of Parliament over the River Thames, but still it was warm with no rain in sight. Good enough for Londoners to venture out, I thought, noticing people were sitting on the grass in this little park between 2 office buildings enjoying those last days of summer. I was in the middle of a song, Wonderwall by Oasis, when I saw him, like every other day, walk to the bench to my left-hand side and squeezed in on one end. Office Guy. I smiled to myself and kept singing, my fuchsia lips brushing against the microphone. He was a regular. I didn't know his real name, of course. We'd never spoken, but he tipped me every day before going back to his business, smiling at me under his black, nerdy glasses. I think it's safe to say I fell for him from day one, from the first time he walked me by and our eyes met. Now, Office Guy wasn't really my type. I pretty much dated the same kind of men, the heavy metal punk rock musician or artist of some sort. Office Guy was so ordinary. I didn't know exactly why seeing him made me all bothered and self-conscious. Maybe it was because he was so good-looking. He was tall and lanky, but his arms were strong and chiseled, and he had sweet, kind eyes. He always wore a clean white shirt and dark suit trousers to work. Most hot summer days he wore the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, showing his muscular, toned arms. The muscles were there. I couldn't go on about my business and ignore them. I had to acknowledge them. It would have been rude for me not to. And he had this messy, mid-length brown hair that hung over his eyes. I thought it was just adorable. And the glasses. I loved the glasses. They were the perfect frame for his chocolate brown eyes, and they were black and square. A proper nerd. See, this is how scary my obsession with observing people can get. I knew by heart everything Office Guy did on his lunch break. He ate a sandwich or salad, facing the river, facing me, and listening to my music. He answered a few phone calls before tipping me and going back to work. That's it. He always came alone. That day he shocked me completely. He had been a no-show for lunch, and he'd stopped by after work with his laptop bag. I was a little perplexed, like he'd cheated on me or something. "You can't just destabilize me like that, office guy," I smiled to myself. But it was when he walked up to me after I finished playing Wonderwall that he threw me completely off guard. "Hi," he said, one hand digging casually in his pocket. I looked up from my sheets of music and smiled. That was a first. He'd never spoken to me before, even though Office Guy and I had been seeing each other for over 3 months already. That's right, I was in a relationship with a passerby. I know it sounds sad, but I hadn't been on a proper date since I'd broken up with my boyfriend of 2 years. I was cheated on and lost any will to start a new relationship. Can you blame me? Office Guy was pretty safe. It was all in my head, so it couldn't hurt. "I have a favor to ask you," he went on taking about 50 pounds from his pocket. He scratched his head, smiling a little embarrassed. God, he's so... I couldn't finish the thought. Office Guy shot me in the chest with his words. "I'd like to propose to my girlfriend, but I really need your help. Would you mind playing our song Yellow by Coldplay while I pop the question?" Office Guy has a girlfriend. I swallowed hard and nodded, forcing a smile. He wants to propose, and I'm supposed to help him. I shook those thoughts away. Of course, I was going to help him. He has a girlfriend, a real one. What, are you jealous of your imaginary boyfriend? Get a grip, Melody, and help the lovely man. Sure, I said, and touched his hand, trying to push back the money. No money needed. I was a big softy for love and all things romance. I was willing to help Office Guy in his romantic bravery for free. Well, not exactly free. How about another one of your shy, sexy smiles, Office Guy? I smiled and shook my head, my hand still over his. He seemed to jump, blinking at me, a little surprised that I touched him. That's right. Strangers don't touch, especially not in a metropolitan city like London. I took my hand back and kept my eyes on his. You don't need to pay me for that. I'll be happy to do it. I smiled again, and this time he smiled back, leaning down to drop the money in my guitar case, nevertheless. No, I want to. Take it before someone grabs it. He chuckled and pushed up his glasses. My heart missed a beat. I really like to listen to you sing. You have a very strong, intense voice. For a little woman like me, that's what you were about to say, right? I took the notes and grinned, enjoying his embarrassed, sexy frown. I didn't mean it like that. I waved it off. I was short and tiny. I knew that my voice surprised everyone. It was bigger than me, loud and deep and throaty at times. People told me I sounded like the singer from Florence and the Machine. I wasn't offended. I reckoned it was a compliment. That's okay. I shrugged it off and went back to our original conversation, to why he was there talking to me in the first place. When do you want me to sing? As soon as she gets here. She'll be down any minute. I'll take her to the side so we can talk, and when you hit the chorus, I'll pop the question. Perfect. I nodded and took the guitar, adjusting it around my back. She's a lucky lady. I had to say it. It took guts for guys to actually pull off stuff like that. Nobody had ever been that romantic with me so far. The sweetest thing I can remember was a guy I'd gone out with for a year or so, bringing me breakfast in bed. Oh, wait. He'd used the money I'd left on my kitchen counter to buy it. Come to think of it, he didn't really buy it for me. He bought it for himself, and then I'd eaten some. Okay, fine. Nobody had ever been romantic with me, period. Office Guy was doing pretty good. I felt I had to encourage him. He thanked me and told me he'd be right back. He returned 5 minutes later with a tall, very elegant woman in a gray suit. I'll affectionately refer to her as our office gal. Not so original, I know, but she looked like him, female version. Crisp, clean shirt, brown, straight, perfectly blown dry hair, light makeup, heels, and classy. They'd started walking my way deep into conversation when Office Guy eyed me and I started playing. Now, with the music in my ears, I couldn't really hear anything they were saying, but their body language seemed quite clear to me. It went pretty much like this. Smiles, fingers brushing the railings, then brushing each other's arms and looking at the river. Then Office Guy actually got down on one knee, took out a blue Tiffany box, and revealed a gorgeous white stone ring. How exciting! I stared in awe and kept singing as Office Guy gave me all the feels. He pushed the glasses up his nose, that silly smile of his playing nervously on his lips, so adorable and sexy at the same time. And then Office Gal shook her head. Wait, what? I blinked and stopped playing in the middle of the chorus. Oh, crap! She kept shaking her head, and bystanders resumed their walk, confused and embarrassed faces disappearing down the street. Oh, shit! Office Guy stood up. The smile was gone. He glanced my way for a second, enough to get me playing again, like I needed to cover up that mess with sound so nobody could listen in on their conversation. Like it wasn't obvious what was happening. She was turning him down. I could just imagine what Office Gal was saying. It's not you, it's me. We don't want the same things. I'm not ready for this. Correction, Office Gal was all the things I said above. Classy, elegant, and cold-hearted. She was shaking her head, touching his arm gently, with a sad look on her face like she was about to cry. But it was his face that almost made me cry. Office Guy just stared at the small box in his hand. He had now closed it and was holding it with 2 fingers like it burned. Then Office Gal walked away just like that, not even eyeing me while I kept playing her song. Their song. For a good 10 minutes, Office Guy stayed exactly where he was, his hands dangling from the railing, looking ahead to the other side of the river. I kept playing my guitar, but made sure not to lose sight of him. The man had just been turned down by his girlfriend by the river near a bridge, may I add. What an awful situation that was. It freaked me out. Poor Office Guy. I felt so bad for him. Screw it, I thought at some point. I couldn't just stand there like nothing had happened. I placed the guitar back in its case, strapped it back behind my back, and left everything else on the pavement. I had to say something to the man. Maybe there was something I could say to cheer him up a bit. Anything to see that smile of his again. Hey. Office Guy turned to look at me with a soft smile on his lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. Are you okay? I said the stupidest thing I could say. As if, oh yeah, he gets turned down by his girlfriend every day. Shut up, Melodie. I am, thank you. He was so nice. He didn't tell me to bugger off, even if he had every right to. Not exactly the best moment of his life. And then this beautiful, mysterious stranger that would be me walks up to him asking about his business. Jokes aside, Office Guy didn't ask me to leave. He was kind and sweet, just like I knew he would. Didn't exactly go as I thought it would, but, he said, not bothering to finish the sentence, his eyes dropping to his neatly polished shoes for a moment. I looked down at them also and moved closer, leaning my arms on the railing, our shoulders almost brushing. No, it hadn't gone as planned, I nodded, silently agreeing with him. It was all wrong, a total mess, but still, with my eyes on good old Big Ben, I tried my best to cheer the guy up. Think, girl, fast. You've been treated worse in your life by your so-called loved ones. Use that. You know, something like this has happened to me before, and I know you don't give a monkey's ass right now, but it could have been worse. What the hell was I saying? It sounded silly, but Office Guy turned my way and smiled again. Really, did you get on one knee, propose to your boyfriend, and he turned you down? He didn't sound pissed. It just seemed like he was genuinely trying to be funny, not trying not to cry over what had happened. No, I made the word last longer as I smiled, a little embarrassed. But I said yes to my last boyfriend when he proposed, and then I found him banging my best friend in our bed just a couple of months after that. I had my gown ready. Oh, and wait for it, it gets worse. I had to leave the house we were living in because I couldn't even think about sleeping in that bed ever again. See how bad it can be? I lost my man, my best friend, and my house. We both nodded and locked eyes for a moment. That's awful. He made a face and my brows went up. And disgusting, but what if I'd never walked in on them? What if I'd married him? See, it was a good thing in the end. He wasn't the right person. Maybe, I was going to say Office Gal, but managed to stop myself. Maybe that lady wasn't the right person for you. Maybe one day you'll understand why all this is happening, what karma is trying to say to you, and what this crazy little pink-haired lady that sings by the river and secretly daydreams of you is trying to tell you. I didn't say that, of course. I kept it to myself and hid behind the cheekiest of grins. Maybe, Office Guy said, but didn't sound too sure. But I just don't get it. Everything was going fine. It was great. We just started looking for a house together. And so he told me everything, well, almost everything, about him and Katie. The office gal was known as Katie. They worked for the same bank, different branches. They'd met 2 years before at the firm's Christmas party. They started dating immediately, fell in love, met the parents, discussed having kids and getting married. They were ready to move in together. He'd bought a gorgeous ring that must have cost a fortune. I'd taken a glimpse at it before he popped the question. No, she said no. Office Guy shook his head like it made no sense. It didn't, not to me anyway. Although maybe there was something we weren't aware of. Maybe someone else, a third party. I kept my mouth shut, of course. We were still near the river. I didn't want him to jump in. Instead, I took out the money, his money, from my pocket and handed it to him. I want you to take it back. But he shook his head and ruffled his hair a little. So sexy, I thought, and quickly scolded myself. Pull yourself together, Melody. No, it is yours. Thank you for playing along. I really appreciate it, and I love to listen to you play. You deserve it. I closed my hand around the notes again, biting my lip, thinking about what to say and do next. I could see he was drifting back into his gloomy bubble, back to having thoughts about Katie. Big Ben sounded in the distance, and we both looked its way. My mind raced. I didn't want him to leave. I didn't want to break the spell. 6:30 p.m. 1, 2, 3 deep, low tolls, but I spoke up before the last one echoed down the river. How about I buy you a coffee? We can maybe talk a little? I smiled, looking up at him expectantly. I wasn't ready to say goodbye to Office Guy. First of all, I still didn't even know his name. Secondly, I really wanted to help him get over Katie, the evil office gal. Okay, maybe I was taking it too far with the nicknames, but I really felt bad for Office Guy. And lastly, I was still not comfortable leaving him there all alone, sulking by the river. No. Are you scared I might do something reckless? He chuckled as if reading my mind. Busted. No, he shook his head, letting out a sigh, but I should get going. I have a little over 15 minutes before my next train home. He checked his watch, and I shrugged. 15 minutes is good enough. So many things we could do in 15 minutes. I grinned, pushing my pink hair behind my ears. I know it may sound like I was flirting, and I'm not ashamed that I was, just a little, just to cheer him up a little bit. Say yes, say yes, say yes, I willed him with my mind. I like to think I am powerful like that. Very few people can say no to me, to my big green eyes and cheeky face. Office Guy wasn't one of them either. He just smiled and nodded. My name is Isaac, he said as he held out his hand. I took it and studied it for a second, wide palm, long fingers, and a tight grip. Isaac. Isaac. Office Guy had a name, and it was just so him. He was an Isaac. How could I not have seen this before? He was a classic. Ordinary, yes, but there was something about him I just couldn't put my finger on. My little hand was lost to his, but I held on tight. My stomach fluttered. Oh, hello, butterflies. The man just had his heart broken, but be respectful and buzz off. Nice to meet you, Isaac, I said. My name is Melody. Melody. His voice was a melody, not my name. He said it like Melodie, and my legs went a little marshmallow on me. Suits you. Very musical. Thank you. Isaac suits you too. Very nerdy office guy. And very sexy. I spoke my secret nickname to his face and watched him chuckle. Another smile. We were doing good, pretty good, I reckoned. Not even 10 minutes ago, he was miserable and abandoned on the side of the river. Now, Isaac was smiling. Sure, his shoulders were still down, his forehead a little creased. He was still hurting like a beaten-up puppy, but I was going to fix that. I had set my heart and mind on it.